Today on an all-new Dr. Phil. Their son dropped out of school.
Jake does have an addiction to video games.
But are his parents
I would clean the dishes while she was laying in her bed.
also playing games?
She's been on all kinds of meds, and I said, let's get her into this program.
You fixed it all. You're so good.
Kristen has tendencies of hoarding.
Hoarding?
Really? You want to make this about you right now instead of about Jake?
I'm not a hoarder. So, yeah.
Let's do it.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
This is a safe place to talk about hard things.
Stand by. We'll count you down.
Today's going to be a changing day in your life.
5, 4.
I am not giving up on you. Thank you very much. Krista wrote into the show because she says her 16-year-old son, Jake, went from honor roll to rolling downhill fast. Now, ever since Jake's dad moved out of the house, Krista claims her son has turned violent, breaking her glasses, punching holes in the walls, and destroying items in their pantry. Now, currently, Jake has dropped out of band, refuses to go to school, and only wants to play video games 24/7. Now, Krista blames her soon-to-be ex-husband, calling him a pathological liar and comparing him to Ted Bundy. Seems a little harsh. Take a look.
My 16-year-old son, Jake, has completely dropped out of school. He's dropped out of marching band. He has dropped out of life. Jake spends all day, all night playing video games. The last time he attended school was last May. He's refused to start his junior year. He says he can't do it. He doesn't want to. Jake is being very defiant. He will get aggressive with his 13-year-old sister. Don't touch her again!
I didn't touch her!
He will get aggressive with me. When I try to take these games away from him, he lashes out. He will push me. He sprained my wrist. Jake likes to yell.
I'll keep looking.
It's not here.
I'll keep looking!
It's not here.
Where's my stuff?
He will come to me and say, give me my games. Where are my games? I need my games. Why can't I have them? Don't break the rules. You won't have your things taken away and you won't have this problem. He will tear apart any room in the house to find his games. I am afraid of Jake at this point. Things have gotten so bad that I have had to call the police twice.
Bully, call the police. Let me have my stuff back then.
Jake has gotten so angry that he's actually shoved and pushed the dogs that he loves more than anything. That dog is running away from you.
I don't care about the dog right now. I want my stuff back.
I absolutely believe some of these issues with Jake stem from the separation and divorce from John and I. The divorce has really affected Jake in a negative way. John and I are not on the same page when it comes to parenting Jake. I believe John's trying to buy Jake's affection. He's always given him money for his grades. His father buys him Legos.
This is where I store all my colors, because that's what I organize them by. Here we have fluorescent pieces.
Drumsticks, video games, virtual reality headsets, you name it, he gets it. Jacob is spoiled rotten by his father. I'm very worried about Jake's future because he's headed nowhere.
Okay, so let's talk about your son first. I just want to find out what level of problem you're dealing with here. What is the worst thing that he's done in the past year that's set off the alarm bells with you?
For me, the worst thing that he's done is push his sister's head into the car door. And Monday night, last Monday, he threw his dad onto the driveway, and his dad left the house saying, I'm having a heart attack. I don't know what's worse, the fact that his dad drug him out of the house by his arm, or the fact that Jake threw his dad onto the driveway. And his dad's a big guy.
You describe Jake as an honor student. He's obviously very musically talented, right?
Correct.
He wasn't just in the band, he was like really good.
Correct.
And then now he's dropped out of band, he's dropped out of school, he's become violent and belligerent with both parents, his sisters, even the dogs that he loves. how do you explain this? Because we're talking about him playing video games all the time. There's a big leap between playing a video game and dropping out of school, dropping out of life, and becoming violent with everybody you know.
I think that it's the chaos with his dad and I, and not being on the same page with parenting, and him being tossed around over here, being parented this way, and then coming here and trying to have rules, and it's so chaotic.
If what you're saying is true, that it's the chaos that's causing all of this, why have you and his father not come together and said, hey, look, obviously our behavior and our conduct is creating extreme pathology here. We're seeing the evidence of it. We need to change what we're doing.
Yes, I agree.
Why has that not happened?
There's nothing wrong with Jacob. He didn't ever want him in counseling. There's nothing wrong with him.
We'll talk to John here in a minute, but he says that these video games have essentially become an electronic babysitter, that it's easier for you to just let him play video games than to engage him in the home as a family member to do the things he needs to do. And he is highly resistant. So you just kind of said, finally, I give up, and you just let him do what he's doing.
Jake just got his switch back when we decided to come to the show, when we knew we were coming to California. I said, you can have it. But his games have been gone all summer. Yes, he could play Fortnite on his phone because he has his phone so he can talk to his dad. But we have lists in the house. Okay, from 8 to 9 or 7 to 8, you're going to shower, have breakfast. From 9 to 10, you're going to read this book and do these exercises. From this time to this time, you can do yard work or that. John has no idea what goes on in the house. He just likes to think and blame and make things up. He wants to blame me for everything. It's not like I'm like, here you go, Jake, just play. That's not true.
I understood that you guys were concerned that he had dropped out of school, dropped out of life, and was consumed by these video games.
He is.
And if that's not the case, then
that is the case.
But you just said he hadn't been playing them all summer.
So, okay, I called the police on Jacob on Father's Day. The police came and they took his major big sets, the PlayStation, the Wii, the big sets, okay? Put them and took them. So he got to keep like his little Nintendo handheld, his phone that has Fortnite, which he's obsessed with.
The police took it?
Yeah, the police took it.
They took his games?
Yeah, and they locked him up. Listen, they said, you have a right to hit your child. I know some people don't believe in that, and I said, I don't. And they said, but you have to give him consequences. I said, I agree, but when I try to, he physically takes me, like, I can't. He sprained my wrist last time. I'm not going to do it. They said, we'll help you out here. We can lock him up at the station.
So they locked the games up?
Correct.
I didn't know they did that.
Now, the one thing I kept was this one little one, and he had been behaving well. So he had an overnight with his cousin he hadn't seen in a long time. And I said, okay, you can have this back if you're doing X, Y, and Z. He did X, Y, and Z, gave it back. I couldn't get that one back from him because he physically wouldn't give it back. He had been playing that and his Fortnite the rest of the summer and never got it back.
Well, okay, I do want to hear from John. And coming up, Krista compares John to Ted Bundy.
Yes.
You know, he was a serial killer.
I was a criminal justice major. I know who he is.
Kidnapped and killed. And,
he doesn't do that, but I mean in his charming, like, manipulating women.
Well, she says that he can have women and men in the palm of his hand within minutes. So you have to be concerned he's going to try and manipulate this situation.
He can't manipulate you. Yeah. He manipulates the therapists.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll meet him when we come back.
My wife is very overprotective. I do believe that Krista is the classic helicopter parent. About 10 days ago, Jake and I had our first ever physical altercation together. Ultimately, I had to pick him up. Jake fought me to get to the car.
And later,
Do you all hate him?
I would most often clean the dishes, make the dinner, feed them, help with homework while she's laying in her bed.
have you ever heard the term humble brag?
Oh, God, yes! Jake's father threatened me that if I expose his cheating, he will expose things about me on the Dr. Phil show. I don't care when you threaten me, have at it. Like Dr. Phil always says, people who have nothing to hide, hide nothing. I'm not hiding anything. John hides everything.
John says he and Krista are not on the same page when it comes to parenting, and he blames her for their son's video game addiction. Take a look.
My son Jake seems lost right now. About 10 days ago, Jake and I had our first ever physical altercation together. I said, listen, Jake, one way or the other, we're going to get to school. We're going to get to marching band because you have to go. You're under our roof, under our rules, that whole thing the parents say. And ultimately, I had to pick him up. Jake fought me to get to the car. My heart was racing, and I'm not a physical spank, punish kind of parent. Jacob plays way too many video games. He's spending 12, 16, maybe more hours a day play video games. Wake up at 5, sets an alarm to play video games and plays all day long. Krista is at home with Jake, and I think that, it's hard for her to control him. He's a 6 foot tall, 16-year-old. He doesn't have a whole lot of respect for Krista. It does piss me off when I hear from Krista that Jake's being physical or touching anybody. Krista and I are not always on the same page as far as how we would parent Jake. I do believe that Krista is the classic helicopter parent. My wife is very overprotective. Krista is way more into disciplining them and punishing them, and I'm more of the friend of the kids. She is more of the iron fist, and I'm more of the conversationalist. I believe that Krista has involved the kids in adult issues. She would say that about me and for sure deny it about herself. The adult issues of talking about a potential affair or that I spend all my money on other women. And I think the kids have overheard lots of this over the years. I do believe that Krista has tried to alienate my son to a certain degree from me in so many ways.
Okay, you were just talking about the difference in your parenting styles.
Correct.
And you have a child here that's really showing, he's attacked you. I mean, you guys got into a physical altercation where you thought you were having a heart attack. It was so upsetting, and you had to exert so much. He's damaging the house.
And his sister.
He dropped out of school how long ago?
Last time he attended school was last year.
2 weeks ago, he stopped going to band camp. So not last year, 2 weeks ago.
No, he attended actual academic school last year.
No, but he participated. Band camp starts a couple weeks before, and he's been going. He went a couple days, then he got sick, and then he went on a trip, and then he came back and wouldn't go.
The trip was on a weekend. It wasn't, he didn't miss it.
I know that. I'm trying to tell.
Okay, what grade's he in?
He's a junior.
Okay, how many times did he miss school last year?
Many.
Many as in 10, 12, 15, 30, 40?
Closer to 20.
And why is that?
If he missed 20, regardless of why, is that a warning sign? I mean,
Yes, it is.
I'm just trying to figure out why this hasn't been reacted to before now, between the two of you.
Because there's an inability to communicate. I've had to ban him from texting me because it can only be through the Family Wizard, the court app, because it's all harassment. I had to go to the police and say, stop harassing me, because it's just like, oh, you're crazy, psycho, psychotropic head. Like, I take antidepressants, so do you. What? Just
it's
stop.
a lot more than that, and you know that. This has been going on for 35 years of your life.
Stop.
No, it's not a stop. This is what Dr. Phil needs to know.
Yes, it is.
For sure, and
It's just abusive
it's
and
not,
harassing, and I can't.
It's a two-way street. You should read the texts.
Yes.
What text are you talking about?
The psychotropic head and you crazy, stupid oh, you're the worst mother ever. You should, these poor kids. Oh, Jake, I'm sorry, your mom's taking too many meds. She should really stop that. It's really affecting her.
Yeah, that's not what I would be telling the children.
I have it on text.
You know, Krista does take too many meds. She went through a med wash program a few years back. Since she was a 15, 16-year-old girl, she had an eating disorder, was put on meds, and was in and out of outpatient facilities. And this eating disorder this lasted for a long time. She's been in therapist, counseling, psychiatrist. She's been on all kinds of meds, and no one could really figure out how to fix it. So eventually, in 2013, I found a doctor where we live, and I said, let's get her into this med wash program.
You fixed it all. You're so
Well,
good.
it didn't fix it all. Unfortunately, the doctor tried for a year and couldn't get her off of all the meds, and I thought that would be a good start to help her, at least get her off of a lot of these, because 8 is a lot. Dr. Phil, maybe you can answer this. If you're 14 or 15...
He's so bored with the story. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just wondering, I really think what people do here is a mirror to what they do out there. And if I see what they do here, I can only imagine what you do out there. And I'm trying to look at this through a 13, 14, 15-year-old's eyes and wonder how they internalize this. The text you're talking about, best of luck, psycho. And Krista, you responded, get going, stop texting me.
Oh,
John, you say, looks like all those psychotropic drugs are finally catching up to you. Ouch. Krista, stop texting me. John, it's sad, really. That's what you're talking about, that kind of exchange.
Yes.
Now, there's more, it just goes on.
It never stops.
Well, I've got some questions for both of you that are going to be outcome determinative with where things go from here. Coming up, Krista says John was living a double life, and he's the reason their son is addicted to video games and refusing to go to school. We'll be right back.
We were married for 15 years until I realized he was living a double life. John still does not admit to having this affair.
Infidelity is something I would never do. I did not cheat on Krista.
And later...
Can you explain what the word hoarding is? And by the way, that...
It's how we lived for 15 years.
You want to make this about you right now?
Yeah, I do, because there is a lot of clutter, but no, I'm not a hoarder. John is very charming, but he's also very dark and manipulative. I do believe he is like Ted Bundy. He can talk any woman into anything. John's tagline would be, I can have a woman in the palm of my hand in 5 minutes, a man in 10. I would advise any woman that comes near him to run.
Well, Krista says her marriage to John ended because she says he was living a double life. But John says the real issue was Krista's drug use. Both parents point the finger at each other, and their son Jake has a front row seat to the drama.
Krista and I both were very unhappy for most of the marriage.
We were married for 15 years until I realized he was living a double life. My 13-year-old daughter came to me and said, Mom, I hate to break it to you, but I think Dad has a girlfriend at his office. John still does not admit to having this affair.
Infidelity is something I would never do. I did not cheat on Krista.
I did confront him, but every time he would say, I was crazy, I'm a stupid bitch, you're an idiot, shut up.
If you can say, hey, he cheated, everyone goes, oh my God, he's the worst, and it's not the case. She now doesn't have to explain the 20 years of what really happened. For the better part of our marriage, I think she spent many years in bed, at least the first decade of our children's lives. I'm not sure how many medicines Krista was taking, upwards of 6, 7, 8 per day. I know that some of them were psychotropic meds. Krista definitely has tendencies of hoarding and collecting and spending, and our whole lives there was bags and boxes and closets filled with stuff. I think the hoarding in our house creates a chaos, it's an uneasiness. I think she ultimately realized divorce was probably inevitable. I realized it as well, and after 27 years of dealing with this roller coaster, I couldn't take another second of it.
Without putting her in the sentence in any way whatsoever, at this point, would you agree that Jake has a dysfunctional adjustment to life.
Yes.
And my question to you is, what is your ownership in that? What is your contribution to that?
I'm here to help this whole family grow, but I would say that for me, as far as owning something, I hope you can help me find out what that is. I've tried to be the best dad possible, and I go to work and I come home and I take care of the kids. There's a decade she spent in bed, so I had to take care of the kids in almost every way,
you got
shape,
her
or
in the
form.
sentence.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
And you haven't answered my question. My question, which I guess is an answer. I just asked you, what is your contribution to his dysfunctional adjustment in life? And you gave me 0.
Well,
do you really see no contribution on your part to your son's adjustment in life?
No, I don't think I said that.
Well, actually, you did.
My contribution for...
I asked you, and you said, I'm here to help the family grow, and she has this and that. You did not give me any bullet points of your contribution, which is what I'm asking.
So I think if there's a contribution on my part, at some point throughout the early stages of our marriage, it felt as if I was always walking on eggshells, not knowing if you're going to get the high or the lows when you walk through that door. And parenting my children, since we do disagree so much, if I would come in, the kids would run and hug me. And sometimes if we were trying to deal with some situation and I spoke on how I would like to parent and she spoke on how she would want to parent, I sometimes would lose. And then if I won, there was this impalpable, or palpable tension in the home that the kids, as 2, 3, 4, 10-year-old kids, had to deal with. She'd go upstairs into her room, I'd stay on the downstairs area, and now this tension existed where there was 0 communication for days, and the fear.
Like, are you serious?
Listen,
that you're
I'm telling
always
you,
a victim?
the fear that I had was what I look back on in hindsight now is I wish I could have been a better parent, but it is a very difficult, as you can kind of see here now, it's very difficult to do something that I feel is right when I'm going to be trumped by something that feels she knows better and she feels she's super strong, and I'm out acting like Ted Bundy or something, and trying to help. I want to convince men and women to like me. I wanted to do what's best for my kids, and when I would come home, I swear to you, I lived many years of pulling into that driveway with tension and feeling it and being sick for my kids. They'd run to me, we'd hug, we'd spend a great night. I would most often clean the dishes, make the dinner, feed them, help with homework while she was laying in her bed. I'm not even kidding. She would lay in her bed for a long time, Dr. Phil. It's the truth.
Have you ever heard the term humble brag?
Oh my God!
No, seriously.
No, I don't know what it means.
You never heard that term?
Humble brag?
Humble brag.
I've had humble pie. I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
Like, I can't. Do you all hate him?
I think it's important for them to understand that this is not about Jake only.
Audience, they don't care.
No, Dr. Phil.
I'm wanting to talk about your son. It's like you don't even care about him.
John has anger issues. I see the same signs in Jake as I do in John. I believe that Jake is learning to manage his feelings through outbursts and anger.
Where's my stuff?
You're scaring the dog!
And he learned that from John.
You clearly have unfinished emotional business.
Yes.
You clearly do.
Didn't earn
between
your
the
way
two
out.
of you. You clearly have unfinished emotional business. You have, and you may have earned it very well. You say you live with what looks like a hoarder and all of this. I mean, you may have a lot of pent-up resentment, and you may have earned it very well. And you may have resentment because you think he's cheated on you. I wasn't there. I don't know if he did or he didn't, but you may have real unfinished business with him. But at some point, you have to be fiduciaries for your child. You have to say, I'm taking my agenda and putting it on the back shelf and allowing my child to be top priority. I'm not going to vent. I'm not going to vent against him to the children. I'm not going to undermine her to the children. I'm not going to let them overhear. I'm going to avoid even the appearance of impropriety as a parent, because I can tell you from having talked to Jake as we have, I can guarantee you that Jake has escaped into the cyber world here. This world is chaotic. And if that's the way your home looks, with all of this clutter and chaos and all, that's not good. If you two have these hostilities between you, that's not good.
Can you explain what the word hoarding is? And by the way, that
Is how we lived for 15 years.
comforter we had before we were married, so I don't even know when that picture's from.
Really? You want to make this about you right now instead of about Jake?
Hoarding? Yeah, I do, because there is a lot of clutter, but no, I'm not a hoarder. So,
Okay.
yeah.
It's hard for my kids to focus and be engaged in the things they want to be engaged in. If the house looks like that, and I'm promising you that everything that she wants to say, Dr. Phil, is alleged. Everything I say can be factually backed up with medical records, pictures, photos, video. I'm just telling you the truth. So I don't, the hearsay she said, whatever he said, she said, I'll bring you photos, I'll send you documents, I don't mind those texts. I'll defend myself on every single one of those, but I do think that the tree that Jake fell off of, his apple is close by, but the tree might need a little bit of help here too. I think if the tree's not fixed, it's an analogy like I heard about in New York, where there is a garbage strike. This is a true story. In the garbage strike, the rats came in droves. All the rats left, and you probably don't want to hear this, but it's important. I think it's really important.
No, seriously.
No, that's fine. I don't need to say it.
No,
I'll
seriously.
just sit and let you run it.
You guys are...
I think it's important for them to understand that this is not about
Who,
Jake
the
only.
audience? They don't care.
No, Dr. Phil.
No, look, I'm not saying you're a hoarder. I met you today. I'm just, if that's what he says, look it up if you want to know what a hoarder is. I'm wanting to talk about your son. It's like you don't even care about him.
No, I do care about him.
But you want to spend your time talking about these pictures? You want to spend your time what he says? You want to continue this combat between the two of you.
Well, but that's not factual information. 2014 to 2016, so no, I don't think it should be up there.
Okay, take it down. Okay. Now can we focus on your son? Because let me tell you, he has a problem here.
Yep.
And this is a problem. This isn't just a psychological problem. This has become a neurological problem.
Yes,
this
it has.
is not...
Yeah, it changes his brain chemistry.
Coming up, Krista sat Jake down to ask him if he would participate in the show. I'm not sure why it was a question. I mean, so is he here? Well, yeah, he's here, but it wasn't necessarily easy. We'll unfold this after the break.
I truly think I am addicted to the video games. I stopped going to school 2 days ago. Why? I have no clue.
We will be flying out of the airport to go to the Dr. Phil show.
I'm not going.
Jake does have an addiction to video games. The video games contribute to Jake's antisocial behavior. He doesn't go out with friends. I am very afraid that if he doesn't stop, he will become like a school shooter. John has a gun in his house, and that scares me. I'm worried that Jake could get a hold of that gun and do something terrible. This is a very serious situation.
Well, Jake says he likes to stay in his room playing video games to keep his mind off of his home life.
A typical day for me is where I'll usually wake up, grab breakfast, come back down, play games for a couple hours. I spend pretty much all day on video games. I truly think I am addicted to the video games. This is my room. These are all my old consoles, usually from 2002 down to the 80s. We have the NES, the Super Nintendo, the Nintendo 64, and then the Nintendo GameCube from 2002. My mom does frustrate me sometimes when she takes my games.
You've been playing games all day long.
Sometimes I'll yell at her. When we got into a fight over my games, I was like rampaging around the house, trying to find them, like opening drawers, opening cabinets, rummaging through even the pantry because I was just so upset about it. I came down here and punched a big hole in the wall, and then she was like yelling at me, trying to say stop, but I just kept going. I stopped going to school 2 days ago. I don't feel like I can do school right now. It's very difficult for me. Why? I have no clue. Me not going to school is a brand new thing. I just don't feel school is for me at the moment. My dad and I did get into a physical altercation. I was sitting in the office playing my games, and he came and grabbed me, threw me on the floor, and then I got back up. I tried to run away. He grabbed me, pushed me out the door, tried to get me into his car. He apologized, I apologized, so we're on good terms now. It does bother me that my parents are divorced. It's very upsetting to me, very sad. I have seen my parents fight before. I am bothered by it. It's kind of upsetting, but I would love to see my parents get back together one day. I just don't think it'll ever happen.
We will be flying out of the airport to go to the Dr. Phil show.
You enjoy your time in LA?
So you'll most likely not be willing to go.
Correct.
And that means if I try to get you to go in the car, what happens?
Well, remember what Dad tried to get me in the car? He couldn't even get me in the car. I doubt you can as well. Personally, I think I can solve the problem myself. I don't think I need to be on the Dr. Phil show, and I feel that this is a waste of my time. I'm not going.
Both parents did agree that something needed to be done. And when that happens and parents agree, then we involve what's called a transporter.
We've just arrived at the family home. We're going to go inside and meet our young man.
This is Mike. This is Laura.
We're your handlers. Dr. Phil has cordially requested your presence in Hollywood. He would really like to meet you. Our job is to just kind of get to the flight, make sure we catch everything on time, make sure all your needs are met. What questions do you have?
I'm good.
Can I shake your hand?
Sure.
My name is Mike again.
Yeah. So right now we are at the airport and we're heading off to LA, going to the Dr. Phil show. I do hope to resolve some of the issues at my house, or me not going to school, my mom and I getting along. I was very nervous this morning when the transport team came because I've always had my doubts about going. There was thought in my head that I didn't want to go. And I've seen the Dr. Phil show before, and I've seen that people do have to come to their house and take them. So I was just going to go with the flow and accept what I needed to do. Missing out on this opportunity is going to be a big mistake, and I think Dr. Phil is going to be able to help me out with my problems right now, and I'm very excited.
Well, Jake, I appreciate you cooperating at that point and coming, and your mother has written in a number of times over the last several years, right? She's been very serious about this and
Yeah, I know.
Concerned about your gaming and spending time with that. Do you think that you have a problem with that?
I think fully I have a very big problem with gaming, and
What is it about it that appeals to you so much?
I think it's fun to take my mind away from the real life, like tragedies and hardships, and I think it's fun to just get away from that and just hone in on that game. And
Just last week, was it, that you got into a physical altercation with your father?
yes,
How did that come about?
I decided not to go to marching band.
You had called and said, you want to handle this like a man, I'm coming and we'll take it in the front yard
Yeah.
and have it out.
Yeah, we went out at the front yard. He tried to get me into his front car seat, and he couldn't get me in there, and he fell on the ground.
But how do you feel about the fact that you got into a physical fight with your father in the yard?
It made me sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
Me too.
You've knocked holes in the wall, you've torn shelves down, you've aggressed against the dog, you've aggressed against your mother. How do you feel about that?
That, once again, is not acceptable. I feel awful about it now. When I get my games taken away, I feel personally I don't have control over my mind and what I'm doing. So
Do you go into withdrawal?
I think that is what happens to me.
Yeah. Well, coming up, John and Krista both agree that Jake's addicted to gaming. So why do they both keep buying him games? We'll talk about that next.
I asked Jacob to go get my glasses. I put them on my face and they smelled, and I asked him, did you put them in the dog's poop? He started laughing. And then I said, did you put these in your behind? And he was laughing harder. So I took them off and he broke them. And he did put them in his behind, thought it was funny. Jake shows me no respect. None.
Well, Krista says Jake's aggression is actually escalating. His younger sister says she's now receiving the brunt of Jake's anger as well.
My relationship with my brother Jacob right now is hectic. We don't talk a lot. Jacob and I fight all the time. It's pretty much like 24/7. It's just very hard. I believe Jacob is causing most of the tension in the house. It's been very difficult to live with.
Don't touch her again!
I didn't touch her!
He can go into my room. He'll disorganize stuff that I've organized. The mood in our house is chaotic. It wasn't very unexpected when my parents split up. I could see them fighting. I'm just kind of waiting for it to end, the divorce to be finalized. The divorce has definitely made my life more stressful. I'm very hopeful that Dr. Phil can help the situation.
Quit talking to me!
How do you feel about it?
About my sister and I?
Yeah, about what she's saying there.
Oh, I agree with her 100%. I definitely think I'm the main stressor in the house.
Are you surprised that they keep buying you games?
A little bit, but in the moment, no. I just take the fact, hey, you're buying me a game. Why not? I'm really happy about that. But I do think it's a little bit surprising that I continue to buy me games due to my behavior when I clearly have enough.
I know a lot of 75-cent words. I just try not to use them. I just kind of try to boil things down to just real simple things. And one of those is just you just don't reward bad behavior. And then I see this text message between you and your dad. Jake, hey, Dad, would you mind getting this card for me this week? It's kind of weird, but I want the $70 version because that's the near mint one. When you click the link, you'll see available items, and you want to click on the $70 one to add to the cart. Thank you. John, sent image of the purchased item. Jake, awesome. Thanks, Dad. What was that about?
I don't really ever ask things directly unless I do something. Is that right? Like, I wouldn't just be rude and say, hey, give me the $7 card. It's because we did something, I earned $70 for something, and I asked him to get that version of the card for me.
On reflection, what do you think about it?
I think there's a gaming issue for sure, but one game or 1,000 games, he still has a gaming issue if he's playing 1 or 1,000. And I will tell you that I never buy him things unless he earns it.
Lie. Jake, can you honestly say you have earned everything Dad has bought you?
No, but there's also Christmas where I get a load of games, $1,000 worth or whatever, I don't know.
You know, I said this is both psychological and neurological because really just every mental health organization has recognized that there is a gaming addiction, and it's an excessive and prolonged pattern of playing computer games compulsively to the exclusion of other interests, and the persistent and recurrent online activity results in a loss of control over gaming, tolerance, and withdrawal symptoms. And there are social components to it because it involves withdrawal from other aspects of life, and it creates problems. And I want to talk about that. When we come back, Jake says he wants to ask me how to get motivated and successful in school again. Well, there are some obstacles to that, and I'm going to talk about what those are. We'll be right back. When you're talking about an addiction, it involves the pleasure centers and how you react to stimuli that bring pleasure to you, and does the bar go higher and higher and higher where you have to have more and more and more. That's why when people are using heroin or cocaine or meth, a little bit is okay to start with, but then it takes more and more and more. And what has been indicated is that with gaming, they're beginning to see the same sort of high, the same sort of anxiety and withdrawal, which you're experiencing when you don't have access to that, because the brain has changed and it has to be changed back. There's great plasticity in the brain. It can change. And I've brought an expert here today to talk about this. We're joined now by James McManus, a licensed mental health counselor and certified addiction professional who is the founder of Family First Adolescent Services. Now, they're located in beautiful Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, and focus on providing a professional, supportive, and safe environment where families can address substance abuse, behavior, mental health concerns. And gaming addiction is one of the things that you all have had to start facing and dealing with, correct?
Correct, Dr. Phil. And I think that in regards to problem gaming or addictive gaming, it's a symptom of an underlying cause and condition. And what we want to do is help Jake and help the family deal with that pain.
He needs help with this, and you two need to up your game as co-parents. And what I would like for you guys to do is go back stage when we finish here and sit down with Jim and let him explain exactly what protocol they have available to help with this issue and with these neurological issues, and see if we can get this on track.
Yes.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I want to thank my guests today, and a special thank you to James McManus from Family First Adolescent Services. For more information about today's show, log on to drphil.com. You can tell us what you think on Facebook and Twitter. I know this is a very hot issue because this is happening in homes across the country. And Jake, thank you for having the insight and willingness to come and talk about this. I appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Memories can kill ya, but it didn't hear ya. I thought that I could fly, but woke up on the asphalt. I swear there was the last time. I've always been naive, call it. You